I had big depression from being back, because it is not this world, and it is so full of love. It makes the love we have on earth plastic in comparison.
Mary Jo Rapini's near-death experience happened in 2003. At that time, she was working as a psychologist for the Lubbock Southwest Cancer Center.
I will die. We all will die. And, so much of our life is dreading it, is being afraid of it, of telling ourselves terrible things about our death, when in fact, maybe what we should do is start looking forward to that. I started living my life like I was preparing for that. I was at the gym in Gold's Gym in Lubbock, Texas, and I was working on my upper body strength. It was a Saturday. It was Holy Saturday, the day before Easter. And I had a lot of things on my mind. Ron, my husband's mom, was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was worried about that. And I was having people over for Easter dinner. So I went to a spin class to kind of get my aerobics in. And then I was lifting weights, and I was working on my upper chest. And I did this machine where I pushed the bar forward, and it was really hard. I had put more weights on it. And after I did it, I kind of saw stars, and I went, oh my God, like that took a lot of strength. And so I'm only going to do one more because I know I'm pushing too hard. And I did one more, and that's when I believe the aneurysm burst. It was a sharp pain in the back of my neck. It was the kind of pain that is just so awful. Like you can't, it's the kind that could drive you mad. Like I actively thought someone had shot me or stabbed me, but I knew nobody was there. So right away, I was a nurse before I was a psychologist. I was thinking, what can that be? Because I think when your body is hurt, you automatically go inside and you kind of scan everything. And I was doing my internal scan, and I thought, oh my God, I think I broke my neck. But then I thought maybe it's a vasovagal, and that's when the vagus nerves get stimulated. And that has happened to me before, where I feel like I'm going to pass out. And if I drink water, it helps. So I stood up. And at that time, it was very clear something really bad was wrong, because I could barely walk. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see, like only little pinholes out the side of my vision, my peripheral vision. And I kind of stumbled over to the bubbler. And when I pressed down on the lever, my whole right side just started like bouncing up and down, uncontrollable. I was basically having a seizure, and that really scared me. So I just laid down. And then this guy, he was at the gym all the time. He came back and he called me muscle woman. He said, muscle woman, what's the matter? And I said, go get somebody in the front. Like, I think I broke my neck. And he went up to the front of the place, and this woman came back, and I had her as an instructor before, and she put her arm around me and she goes, what's the problem, Mary Jo? And I said, I don't know. I just, the back of my neck hurts. Something bad's happening. I can smell blood. She said, well, should we call an ambulance? I said, yeah, I think so. My husband was working in Houston, Texas at the time, but he was home for the weekend Easter holiday. I gave them his number in my record when I first joined the gym. So they called him, but he didn't answer. And they called the home number, and that's where my daughter answered. So all of a sudden the ambulance was there, and they took my blood pressure, and it was extremely high. And I kept saying, am I bleeding? Am I bleeding? Because I smell blood. And they said, you're not bleeding on the outside, but we think you had a bleed inside. All of this was telling me something was really bad. And then they put me in the ambulance and took me to the hospital. And all I remember is any bump they hit hurt so bad that I wasn't sure I could stay in control of the pain. And at that point, I submitted to God. I said, thy will be done, Lord, this is in your hands. I've had a good life, whatever you will for me. I was grateful and ready to let go. I had, within seconds, total relief. Like I wasn't worried. It's still hurt, but I just felt such comfort. And to this day, I know that's so important to do, to submit to him, and the comfort that comes from that. So when they took me to the hospital, as luck would have it, or as a blessing would have it, none of the neurosurgeons were in town. They were all at a conference in Santa Fe. But my husband was there, and he met the ambulance, and he looked really worried. Everybody at this hospital knew me because I was the therapist there for cancer patients, and I went to all the tumor board meetings, and they all knew my husband and I. So it kind of felt like a family there. But the only neurosurgeon that we really had was this guy that was retired, and he came in for this, emergency, and he took Ron back with the scans to show him, because my husband's a physician too. And after the scans, Ron came back and he looked like he had seen a ghost. He's really upset. And he said, Mary, your head is just full of blood. And I said, I'm sorry. I think I was pushing it too hard or something like that. And none of it mattered because, I was very lucid. I was able to talk. Throughout the day there, they ended up moving me in a surgical ICU. They took me across the street because they knew I had a bleed, but they didn't know where it was. And because there were no adult neurosurgeons there was a radiographer there who did angiograms. And he thought, since I was small, he may be able to put that into my brain and actually get an idea of where the blood was coming from, because it wasn't stopping. It just kept bleeding. And this was the big problem. When he did it, he couldn't locate the bleed because there was just so much blood. So they decided at that time that they were going to just observe me. I was in another state, like I was in and out, but but God was holding me already. I hadn't talked to him yet. I wasn't getting any meds, and yet I was very managed by him. They wouldn't give me any pain control because, they're afraid that it will slow your respirations. But they did have a way that they could situate my pillow so that it wouldn't hurt so much to lay down. I had to be completely still. This went on through Saturday night. And then on Sunday, they were coming in to do vasoconstriction sonograms like every hour. I stayed like that on Easter Sunday. And we were supposed to have dinner. And I was so upset that I wasn't there, but I insisted that Ron and the kids host this brunch for Easter. And I said, listen, this is life. It was our turn. And I was just being crazy. But Ron and the kids, acquiesced. They didn't know what to do. If I was dying, they wanted to do my last wish. So they had this brunch. And that's when the majority of our friends found out what happened. They will never forget Easter Sunday again, because after that, many of them were coming and just, telling me they were praying for me, that they couldn't believe this happened. Monday night, they had moved me from the surgical ICU out on the floor. And Monday night, I had several friends that came to see me. I wanted to be there for them, but I can remember that it was very difficult. And my friends told my husband, she looks green tonight. She does not look good. She's got a bad color. And Ron said that he was concerned about sepsis or something too. I remember they woke me up. I was startled, but then all of a sudden they were wheeling me down a hall, and Ron was there, and there were, people there. There were surgeons and doctors. They had the lights on and they were doing things, procedures. I remember a lot of lines, a lot of wires. And I noticed up in the right-hand corner of the room, there was this odd light. I call it a light because it looks like a light. But I've worked in ORs and I've worked almost every area of the hospital, and I had never seen something like this because my patients, when they were dying, they used to tell me, last night I saw light and I think that was a tunnel. And I'm looking at that light thinking, is that a tunnel? Like, I am not impressed. It's so small. And then all of a sudden, it kind of got nearer to me and it opens and I'm in it. And it felt like I was drawn to it, or part of my body was. But I remember it was lovely. It was comforting, and I could see, like, I was going up, but I saw what I was leaving, and I could see my body. I could see they were at a table. I could see their shoes. I saw Ron. The room that I was in was an luminescent pink. I have never been able to see that color in a paint store. And I have gone to a lot of paint stores. It's not human. My eyes have seen things that aren't human. And when you try to describe it, it ends up sounding corny, like, because it's surreal. How can we explain it? I just remember that that God held me, and I have no doubt it was God. And he said, you can't stay. And I was really upset. I said, I can't stay. And I started telling him all the things I had done that were good. Telling God every social accolade I can possibly think of. I've given free care. I've been a good wife. I've been a good mom. Anytime I sacrificed, I tried to tell God this. And he said, let me ask you one question. Have you ever loved anyone the way you've been loved here? And I said, no, it's impossible. I'm a human, as if, God wouldn't know that. And he said, you can do better. And with that, like when I said I'm a human, it felt like he smiled, or that comment brought joy in some way that I could feel. And then after I said, no, I'm a human, and he said, you can do better. Then I was back on the table. Ron was saying, Mary, you're going to need a surgery. And he said, they're telling me you might not be able to run. You might not think the same or be able to talk. And he was crying, and he said, I don't know what to do. And I said, just do what you have to, just sign it. And I said, I just talked to God and I'm not going to die. Because I was so disappointed. And in fact, that was one of the big hurdles after my NDE is I had big depression from being back, because it is not this world, and it is It is so full of love. It makes the love we have on earth plastic in comparison. And I know we talk about unconditional love and agape love. I don't think we can comprehend it. It's so much deeper and bigger than what you have for your child, because it includes everyone. I'm quite sure God meets everyone in their native language, in their native tongue and culture when they go to him. And my rehab was remarkably quick, and there were scary times when I first walked again. They told me the chances that I'd be able to, but I didn't care. I was like, whatever I'm left with, I know now it is his will. So I didn't play any games. Well, I hope he gives me my legs, or please God, help me. I just was able to totally settle in what he gave me back. And he gave me more, I think, than I went in with. What was interesting is, if it had been any other experience, I would have probably been so happy to be back, because I have two children. One was finishing high school and the other was an 8th grader. And I loved those kids, and I loved my husband. I loved the life I was living. I was so excited about moving to Houston, and we had a new house and everything to look forward to. So it shows you the magnitude of what that short time with God did to my whole life. It turned it upside down. And all I wanted was that, compared to all the material, all the love here, all the riches. It could not compare to the 1 or 2 minutes with him. And so when I started seeing that in a perspective that that's my gift to look forward to, because I will die. We all will die. And, so much of our life is dreading it, is being afraid of it, of telling ourselves terrible things about our death, when in fact, maybe what we should do is start looking forward to that. I started living my life like I was preparing for that. So when people say, live your life like you're going to heaven, that is not a simple thing. I mean, you really do. You have to watch how you treat people. You have to watch what you do for people. You have to look at the acts of love you offer. That in my assignment was, I could give more love. How was I going to do that? God's kind of love, not the kind I had where it was about social accolades and fame and getting recognized. No, that was not sufficient love according to God. He needed the real stuff where you do acts of love with nobody watching. There's no praise on the other end for you. You just do it because this is your brother or sister. And I think looking at my life like that helped me not only be a better person, helped me be a better mom and wife and therapist. I'm not perfect. I'm still on it. I have really good days and really bad days, but just having that perspective has really turned my life around. I was very estranged from God when this happened. I mean, I was angry at God. I was working in a cancer center where I saw a lot of people that were just wonderful people getting terrible cancers and dying terrible deaths. I worked with pediatric cancer and watched their parents just get ripped up inside from watching their little child die. And I started asking, what kind of God is this? Like, I would rather not be with this kind of God. And it was during this turmoil that this incident happened, this blessing, if you will. And there was no holding back his mercy for me for feeling that way. He accepted me with as much love and grace and mercy you can't imagine. It was just abundant. I think when people are suffering, they're closer to God. And I think God makes himself more present to them, because I believe God, in the end, wants us all with him. And when we are feeling good, there's no problems, we aren't as close to God as we should be. He's always there, but we don't reach out. It's during suffering that we reach out to God. And when we suffer, we give every person that has any view of that or any ear to that an opportunity to be loving with compassion toward us. And it's an opportunity for all of us, which when someone's suffering, it's unfortunate many times they're isolated because we're missing out on an opportunity to serve. I absolutely believe when we leave this world, we go back to him. And when we are there, we understand it all. I had such an understanding there. I cannot tell you. It was so different.